Where does your history begin with this, Jack?
My history begins at the Alvin Theater in 1966. I took a train down from a prep school I was going to and saw a matinee and fell in love with it, and I've loved it ever since.
So what did you fall in love with? Was it the story? Was it the score?
I think more than anything else, it was the attitude. It was, I love the score, and the orchestrations by Eddie Sauter, who was a jazz arranger, are out of this world. And very unusual for Broadway. But what I really fell in love with was this kind of sweet, ironic, comic take on a superhero who has a girl that's in love with him, and he doesn't really realize it, but he sort of does, and he feels ambivalent about it. And it's so not what you expect a superhero story to be. I mean, it has a mad scientist, and it has everything that you would expect as elements in it, but the tone is so kind of sweet and foolish in some knowing way that's really unique, and that's what attracted me to it right away.
Okay, so you're adapting the book. How exciting is that, and how are you doing it for Encores?
Well, when we adapt books at Encores, basically what that means is that we cut the things we can't stage because it's a semi-concert, and get through the material as quickly as possible to feature the score as much as possible. This book is the only musical book by Robert Benton and David Newman, who went on to write the screenplay for Bonnie and Clyde and the Superman movies, and Benton won the Academy Award for Kramer versus Kramer. I have an awful lot of respect for these guys, and Benton was a great mentor of mine almost 40 years ago when I thought I was going to be a screenwriter. So I've been very careful to make it swifter, make it a little quicker. We have had some little changes in language in it, but it's principally the original book adapted Encore style, which is to say we don't think we need to fix anything. We just need to make it go. Why
did you want to direct Superman?
Well, Jack Vertel called and said, John, I've got a great show for you. It's called Superman. It's a Birds Playing Superman, and I'm a big fan of the show, big fan of the score especially. And I never saw it. I was still a little too young and was living in Texas at the time that it was running here in New York, so I didn't get to see it. But I love the superhero, and I love this kind of superhero. It's such a different worldview today than it was back in mid-'60s. Superheroes today are, for lack of a better word, very dark, very terrified and freaky and filled with real horror, and the superheroes of the 60s and the 50s were fun and funny, and I really love that about this piece.
Talk about the score.
It's really one of the great mid-'60s scores I think we have in the American musical theater, and it's just it's infused with late 50s jazz, 60s pop, and then classic Broadway sound. It's really fun. And what I also love about it too is all the incidental music. Right off the bat, there's a robbery that takes place, and they rob a bank, these robbers, and Superman, of course, has to save the day. And but that's like a minute and a half of really fun, spy-like, mysterious underscoring that I just think is really beautiful, and it's so great to hear it.
Great cast that you put together.
The cast is outstanding, really stunning. We were really fortunate. Jay Binder, casting director, did a fantastic job again, as always, here at Encores, and that everybody that we wanted came and wanted to do it too. It was really special. I'm really pleased that Ed Watts is here as our Superman. He's a special performer, a great guy, and he has the exact right tone. He sort of sets the tone for the entire evening.
Let's talk about what you love about this period and the challenges of musical staging Superman.
Well, what I love about this period is, the music is just so danceable. It's so easy to just jump up and down to, and it's a real tribute to the music of that era, and then to the dances of that era, and so we're really I fell in love with this show Hullabaloo maybe about 8 years ago. I discovered it and I bought all the DVDs and I just watched it over and over, and Donna McKechnie and Michael Bennett dancing and all the craziness, and so I feel like I did my research for this show 8 years ago, and I'm finally getting to use all that knowledge that I got.
So how much pre-production were you able to do for Superman with working on Smash?
It was hard. We did do a lot, but you know, so usually what would happen is I would start my mornings very early at Smash, as we do, and then come here later in the afternoon once we finished shooting or rehearsing, and then sometimes I would have to go back to Smash in the evening. So they were very long days, but I was able to at least get like 3 or 4 hours in per day.
Charles Strouse has been around the rehearsal room. What has it been like getting to know Charles Strouse?
It's amazing. It's fantastic. I mean, it's just a legend of musical theater, and I'm just so honored that he's here in our presence, and we feel so lucky.
How excited are you to be doing this at Encores?
Well, it means the world to all of us. I can speak for all of us because we never had such fun in writing a piece as we did. Bob and David and Lee and Hal, we just laughed from beginning to end. You know, most shows there's a lot of conflict among the authors. There was almost none. We would agree or disagree, but everyone kind of got in the same place, and it was fun. And we had people who loved it, and we were hurt by what Bob said was cape lash. Batman became very popular on television, and the kids didn't flock to see Superman. But we were the first, and I like to be, I'm kind of proud of that in a way. We took a very satirical tone about it, whereas, you know, a lot of the shows that are done on cartoons today and in films, they're very serious. We take a satiric stance, and that's Bob and David and Lee and Hal Prince, of course.
So how did it originally come about? I mean, in the 60s, whose idea was it to do this?
David Newman's son said, "Dad, why don't you do," and he came to us one day, we were talking about doing another show, and he said, my son had an idea, and as soon as he said it, we loved it. And Hal loved it, and although it did not run long, I've never had more fun on a show in my life than I did on Superman, and I hope that still exists. Everybody just saw it the same way. We all had grown up with the comic strip. We all had a love for Superman, which I still do, but also a distance which a lot of people don't have today. They take it quite realistically. Batman is a man of great virtue and substance and all, as is Superman in our thing, but we took an adult point of view on it.
It's got a beautiful score.
Thank you.
Of course, with You've Got Possibilities. Do you remember writing that song?
You know, it's one of the few songs in my life that I remember writing. I don't remember writing most things because I don't know how I write them. I just love writing. But that one I remember because my wife and I were living on Fire Island, and I was walking down a path, and I started going da 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 da, and it was infectious, and it hit me, and I thought maybe this is a tune. I've never done that before. They never come to me. I sweat over them, but that one, as I was walking, it just seemed a wonderful walking song, and of course Lee's lyric is brilliant. And,
it's amazing to write a hit song like walking down a boardwalk on Fire Island.
I know, it doesn't happen like that often, believe me.
You know, you could be an attractive man with a little push in the right direction. Haircut, simply terrible, necktie, the worst, very, just unbearable. What to tackle first? Still you've got possibilities, though you're horribly square. I see possibilities underneath. There's something there.
Cindy, I'm just Clark Kent. You see me here all the time.
So, this is your first Encores. What's going through your mind?
Can I do it? Can we do it? Apparently we can. They've done it a lot in the past, like 60 or something like that. So we're going to do it, whether we want to or not, or whether we're ready.
Did people tell you what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, my roommate has done an Encore show, so I remember being like, what's your advice? You know, it's just like, you know, it just goes quick. I mean, but we've all done some regional stuff and like that where, you know, it gets done. So you just got to, this is your life for like 2 weeks, basically.
It's a good This Is Your Life.
It is a good for your life, yes.
Talk about the role you're going to play.
I play Sydney. She is a secretary to Max Menken, and they kind of have a bit of a relationship, and maybe a not so healthy relationship. So she kind of moves on to Clark Kent for a while, not Superman. She never meets Superman, really, but she has some dates with Clark Kent, which go pretty well. But you know, of course, her and Max end up in that tragic relationship in the end again. But it's comical. It's funny.
And what has it been like working with this cast so far?
Good. I feel like I just met them still, even though it's been, I don't know, maybe like 4 days, 5 days or something like that. But I knew Ed, I knew Jenny, but a couple people I didn't know, so that's really fun. New people.
Talk about this great score. Did you know the score at all?
No, I knew of the song You've Got Possibilities. I think everybody probably might. That's the song people seem to know from the show. That is the only song I knew from the show. So, and I get to sing it, so that's kind of fun.
So why do you think this is a perfect show for Encores?
Because it's fun. It's a nice little clip of like the late '60s. I think that music is going to be so cool with this orchestra. Just that sound of it's just a throwback to that era, you know. So Encores is very music heavy. I feel like, you know, it's like this concert. So I think the sound of the music is going to be pretty fun and really cool.
Did you know it before?
No, I didn't. I thought it was a contemporary musical, I'm embarrassed to say. And I thought I knew a little bit about musical theater history, and I missed this one. No, it's great. It's a really cool discovery.
So what has it been like working on this and learning this great score in this book?
It's been cool. When I read it at first, you know, because in our day and age we've got serious Spider-Man, and the movies of Batman are very serious. And so I started reading it just sort of in that frame of mind, and I was like, this is not what I was thinking it was. And then all of a sudden I went, oh, it's satire. And all of a sudden it became hilarious once I figured that out. So it's been cool. I mean, it's set in the 60s, so there's all this misogyny. I play a jerk, you know, the guy that's constantly hitting on his secretary and thinks he's God's gift to women. So so it's fun, for one. But why do I always play a jerk, Richie? It says something about me.
Because you're a great actor, that's why.
Right, because it's so far from who I am. Exactly. No, it's been really cool. But the score is really, I mean, the big discovery. You know, the songs just one after another are so cool. I was saying this earlier, but it's like at that cool intersection between old Broadway kind of classic Roger Hammerstein sounding things and the pop music of the 60s. It's in this cool middle ground. These big brassy orchestrations, but just it's so unique because it's in this some sort of in-between place.
So you're walking in the shoes of like Jack Cassidy. I mean, there were so many classical people who were in this. It was Bob Holliday, it was Jack Cassidy, it was Linda Lavin. Talk about having Charles Strouse around, what it's been like working with him.
It's been so cool. I just said in another interview, my musical, like when I was a kid, where I thought I want to be an actor, was Annie. I was like 8 years old. It was the first big show I'd ever seen. It was a big touring company at Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and I went and saw Annie, and Annie was halfway through maybe, and I was just like, I want to do this. And from then on, I started, you know, being an actor. And so to meet Charles was like a real neat moment for me.
And working here at Encores.
Incredibly cool. I've never done an Encore show before, so this is it is baptism by fire, to say the least. You learn it so quickly, but it's fun. It's like an amazingly talented group of folks and really fun material.
Under the direction, of course, of John Rando.
Yeah, John's fantastic. Did you just see the carousel at the Lincoln Center? It was amazing. Anyway, that was John. He's great. He's great. He's so creative in a short amount of time. You know, normally you explore the process and you find your things, and we don't have time for that at all. So John's just like, here, I've got these ideas, how about this? And you're like, great. It's so nice to just be given some ideas instead of having to figure it out for myself.
So this is your first Encores.
Brand new.
So what is it like? Thrilling, exciting, scary?
Oh, it's so fun. As our director, John Rando, said, it's like Broadway summer stock. Everyone is so wonderfully excited for this, and you just put it up in a couple weeks and see what happens for the love of it.
Have friends told you what to expect, or people who've done Encores before?
You know what? No, not really. I'm so brand new to this experience, is that it's all coming at me for the first time, but I'm loving it so far.
So what has it been like? I think you've had like 4 days. Tell me what these 4 days have been like for you.
So quick, just thrown, shot out of the cannon. Truly, but it's been fast. But everyone's here just because they love the work and they love the piece. It's just been a blast.
So who are you playing?
I'm playing Jim Morgan, Lois Lane's other love interest.
So what is he like learning?
He's fun. I mean, the music by Charles Strouse, we've been working a lot on music, is so gorgeous that I can't wait to hear this with a full orchestra because it's going to be truly beautiful.
Okay, this is an incredible score. So talk about what songs do you have in the show?
I have We Don't Matter at All. I play a scientist who sort of has the view on life that we're all just sort of an accident. And I sing it with Lois Lane, and that's really my one big shot in this show.
So what are you looking forward to the most with doing this at Encores?
Oh, singing this score with a full orchestra on that stage, hands down.
So here we are.
Here we are.
How exciting has this been working on this show so far?
Terrifying. No, it's been really fun. It's just the usual Encores thing of, can we really do it in a week? But it's great. I mean, it's 60s. It's campy. It's just great.
How well did you know the show before you started on this?
Not well at all. I knew You've Got Possibilities. That was the only number I really knew. That Linda Lavin song. Well, now it's Allie's song, but I really didn't know. Every time I've done Encores, I've always had a kind of nodding acquaintance with the show, and then got to know it by doing it. It's great.
So what role are you playing? Tell me.
I'm playing the evil Dr. Sedgwick, the mad scientist of the piece. Yes.
So what is it like playing this, comic book villain?
Well, it's like you got to do all the things you're not supposed to do as an actor, I guess. You're supposed to, be too big and indicate and mug and, all of that stuff. But
it must be great. So things they tell you not to do is what audiences expect you to do, and directors expect you to do.
Yeah, and that you sort of find yourself doing anyway at Encores because you have to work so quickly. But, but it's great songs, and it's great.
Talk about working with John Rando at the helm.
Oh, I love John. I've worked with John a couple times now, and he's just great. He's a wonderful cheerleader and idea person, and he's great.
And working with his cast, I know it's only been like 4 days or whatever.
It seems to be pretty much like a little, love fest. I mean, everybody, you kind of have to just dive in and just go, here's my company, and here's our company. I mean, here's who I'm doing this with, and you kind of have to skip the usual kind of getting to know each other that you usually do in the first week and a half of a normal show, and you just have to go, here we are. We've known each other forever.
Tell me what you love about working at Encores.
God, I have to say right off, the orchestra, I think, is really the best thing about it. Because, these things get done at, the York or wherever places, but when you hear a score like this, which has such a metallic sound, this overture, and it's thrilling. It's really thrilling.
He flies you anywhere you want to go. Free.
Does he ever hold me? Has he ever told me he could care? Tell me please, when will he learn it's not some silly fly-by-night affair? I know that I should find myself another man, someone to give my love to as I know I can. A homey type who'll stay around, a guy with both feet on the ground. Until he comes, my heart is bound to
Well, here we are at Encores. How exciting has this been working on this?
This has been so thrilling for me because I have history with this show. My husband and I, Matt and I, did the revisal down in Dallas. What was that, summer of '09? No, 10, because we had been married, yes, a year. But in that production, I played Sydney Sharp, not Lois Lane. But that show was completely restructured and rewritten, so Sydney Sharp in that production was her own entity. She was not Max's secretary. She was this blonde bombshell gossip columnist. And she had the hots for Clark Kent. She had a thing for dorks. So it was great to sing You've Got Possibilities to my husband in that version. So Matt and I really didn't play opposite each other in that. So in this production, it's been so fun to play Lois because I think Lois actually has more to do in this show than the revisal. And the music that they have kept for the original version is very different than what we had presented in Dallas. And some of her songs I'd never heard before, I've fallen in love with, like What I've Always Wanted. Beautiful melody that Charles wrote. And that's all about Lois romanticizing about the simpler life outside of the city, you know.
Having Charles Strouse here, what that's been like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, he is such a gem. Come on. He's such, I mean, obviously a gifted composer, but he's such a generous soul as well. I mean, he came in the first day and gave us a really nice speech about what Superman has meant to him. Who knew? For him, it's been one of his most beloved shows, and so he's thrilled to see it, on stage again. And he was very present and active also in Dallas as well. So I have history with him as well.
Talk about this great score by Charles Strouse and Lee Adams.
Well, first of all, Charles Strouse, who's right over there, by the way. Lovely, such a lovely man. I didn't really know the score. I came late to music theater in my career as it was, so I missed some of these things. But what I love about this score is how indicative it is of the 1960s and how so many of these songs you can just tell, like the whole, the dancing that goes on, the ensemble luckily doing most of that, but the one that I get to do that I love so much is the fight song in the second act, the Pow Bam song. The idea that every time Superman hits somebody, instead of a nap or something, he actually says the word pow, like you would see in the comic book, above their heads. And I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant what they did with that. And it's just, the music is so fun. It gets you in the mood immediately, especially the theme, because obviously Superman, we know the theme from like the Christopher Reeve movies, but this one has its own awesome sort of dark and fun, jaunty theme as well. So.
And working with this cast so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, Jenny Powers, just chatting with her right before I walked over to you. She's an amazing Lois Lane. Ali Mozzie is my Sydney. We have like a 2-minute stage kiss. I had no idea that Superman got to do that. Will Swenson is our Max, and oh my gosh, that guy makes me pee. He's hilarious. David Pittu is our evil Dr. Sedgwick. And, I've known David's work for a while, and getting to work with him has been fantastic. And Adam Monley, who just joined our cast sort of late on, but he's doing a great job as Jim. So I have to say, our ensemble so far has been great. And as I said, Rob Berman and Joel Fram have already whipped them into such amazing vocal shape like they always do. So it's going to be pretty spectacular.
What I think is great about this audience and why it's so perfect for Encores, you're going to have that musical theater audience, and you're going to have the comic book world coming too for the very first time, probably seeing a show.
From day one when I was announced as Superman, which is quite a bit before others, I started getting on my own webpage and, through other people, the comic book websites immediately started wanting, information and interviews and autographs, like, ooh, who's the new Superman? And I don't think I was quite prepared for how much these people just love and adore this character, and I get it, but I wasn't quite prepared for it. So after a while, it sort of settled in. I realized, okay, this is a big deal, and I love it, and I love that they're going to be out there. I just hope that they understand that it's not today's sort of dark superheroes that we all know with the Batmans and Spider-Mans, that it's definitely much more of a throwback to the original, like George Reeves television show in the 1960s, where it was very much a satire, very much sort of more campy. And I mean, we're dealing with a fictional comic book character, so hopefully they'll be on board with that, and then I think they'll love it.
I know our superhero flies in real life. Will he fly here?
Superman flies in a way. We do it very low tech, thank God, because of course we only have 6 hours of tech rehearsal. So there's a very clever way we make him fly that John Lee Beatty, our wonderful set designer, who's designed all 60 plus Encores, has done a very fun and great great thing for us in terms of that.
I figured if anybody could make him fly, you could.
Yes, that's right. You know, he has to fly because that is the story. We have to tell that story. But we have a very silly way of doing it, and I think it pokes fun at the complications of flying around town here.